Naturally, he deducted from these experiences an assumption that each disease which he measured with this device had a specific individual wavelength of frequency, because specific settings of his rheostat, which he assumed to indicate specific frequencies, kept showing up with specific diseases. Today we talk about the collective placebo effect, getting into this in other places. Soon Abrams found out that the same type of frequency settings of the rheostat were not only useful to diagnose, but also to heal. The idea that the settings of the rheostat simply may be the result of ideomotor activity, such as the pendulum, or when projected out as a way to make specific diseases permanent, did not occur to him. Nowadays, we can say that he used ideomotor activity to detect diseases and abstractions of wishes made permanent to set up operations of healing, to work against diseases. Besides such radionic settings, many other methods work just as well, and a witch doctor of some 50,000 years ago could have told us exactly the same thing, based on his experience. He was not a scientist. And as well as a modern-day magician or priest would tell us, fascinating was the use of a technological method by Abrams, or a method which appeared to be an electronic technology. The human interface was very important in this diagnosing, and the human abstractions or vision became an important factor in the healing process and other effects later on. Plus, repeated use of the same rates ended up in sets of collective placebo effects, which took the full character of any, call it magical or religious symbol representing the action of some assumed spirits. The original set of assumptions was irrelevant as far as the effectiveness of the technology was concerned. This was the origin of assuming the radionic settings being frequencies, and consequently things like paper radionics could never be understood or accepted by the purest frequency popes of radionic machinery. In our days, those frequencies, since they cannot be measured, are assumed to be of a more subtle nature, of course. A comparison to this frequency approach: put a Gauss meter, that's an instrument measuring magnetism, onto the hood of a car, any car, and you start up the car and the magnetic fields change, become pretty predominant because of the movement of steel parts, the AC generator working, and the like. The wise scientists around those cars, the hoods of which they never opened, of course, would say, "Oh, here we have proof positive that these cars are driven by magnetism. In fact, their magnetism all the way through, and magnetism can explain their design, their shape, their color, their speed, and so on." In the light of action at a distance, their connection with things like settings that make abstractions permanent, life energy technology, the frequency concept became unnecessary, and consequently things like paper radionics could be understood easily, and homeopathic methods turned out to be related to radionics. In fact, I like to call homeopathy a substance-based radionics. Well, some of the old popes would say everything has frequency. Therefore, the substances of homeopathy are frequencies. Now, going back to Abrams, with his set of assumptions, which later turned out to be faulty, Abrams actually managed to establish an extremely flexible and adaptive method of actions at a distance, and the basis of fantastically flexible devices for diagnosis and for healing. This means that the methods which he developed out of his experience are still very effective in our times. The fact that we have much better and more workable explanations now, I mean explanations and theories which do not only prove to be comprehensive, including also methods other than radionics, methods of action at a distance, This does in no way make invalid the technologies that Abrams developed, even though those new technologies coming from the new approach to radionics allowed me to develop more modern, more powerful, and more flexible technologies and tools. More recently, radionics was spreading into everyday life, and users went well beyond the typical healing approach. In fact, my devices are set up for everyday approach and not for healing at all. The functional near identity with other methods of action at a distance, which was mostly overlooked in the past or not talked about, is obvious.